The morning bell of Veskra's gemsmith guild rang like a struck goblet, a high chime that carried over terraces where pink dawnlight glittered across frosted quartz roofs. Leoris Vel stood at the balcony rail, gauging the resonance. Good. The pitch still held true. The copper chime inside the bell had not worn thin, even though actual copper, any metal at all, was rarer than rain. Below him, apprentices were already pruning the weapon beds, coaxing spears and sabers from earth that had not seen iron for 3 centuries. Here, a forest of aquamarine spines trembled on the end of a calcite limb. There, a coral-red broadsword ripened, its edge self-sharpening as it drank sunlight. A passer-through might have thought the courtyard a garden cultivated for beauty, not for killing. That contradiction never ceased to ache Leoris. Arin, his youngest apprentice, clambered up the spiral stairs, carrying a tray of pebble-sized nubs. They rattled like dice. Seed points for the Imperial Order, Master. Overseer Vascor's guard wants 600 falchions by month's turn. They pushed the delivery forward again. Leoris sighed. Of course they did. Put the tray in the warm bed, and remind the others, cut along the lattice, not across it. If we overstress the seams, the blades will craze before the guard gets a chance to swing them. He tried to keep his voice calm, but Arin caught the strain. The boy lowered his voice. You were up all night again, weren't you? I sleep enough. You still think the vines will work? They have to. His reply came out harsher than intended. He softened it. Sorry, but yes, I think they will. Arin nodded, eyes bright with the same reckless hope that had once lived unguarded inside Leoris himself. The master gemsmith watched him retreat and felt a tug of fear. Hope was the most dangerous crystal of all, fragile, and able to cut the soul to ribbons. Beyond the guild walls, Veskara's streets already hummed. Porters hauled crates of weapon shards. Children tossed broken crystal bits in skipping games, and above them all towered the Judicant Spire, its peak a spindled amethyst, where traitors' bodies were exhibited encased, living in slow-growing geodes. Crystallized execution, they called it, the punishment for theft, sedition, or any act deemed harm to collective stability. Leoris had watched his older sister suspended there 12 years ago after she tried to smuggle refugees out of the city. Her open mouth had filled with amethyst until her last breath tinkled away like distant wind chimes. He would not let that fate claim anyone again, least of all Arin. Yet every act he took toward preventing it led him closer to the spire. Nightfall found the guild quiet, the apprentices dismissed. Leoris locked the public gardens, then crossed into his private greenhouse, a modest glass vault set against the city wall. To casual inspection, it appeared another experimental plot for weapon crystals, neat rows of dull purple buds, hardly promising. But beneath the soil, vines of a different lineage webbed the beds, pulsing softly, drinking up the quartz granules Leoris had mixed into the loam. He knelt, humming a low triad. The vines answered, faintly retuning themselves to his note. Leoris slipped on forged glass gauntlets and eased a bud free. It wasn't a budding blade, but the swollen node of a brake vine, his illegal creation. He had bred it over 8 patient years by crossweaving brittle celestite roots with the living tourmaline creepers native to the Outer Barrens. Fed on select harmonics, the vine released an ultrasonic quaver that induced internal fracture in any lattice within arm's reach. Stone stayed stone. Metal, already scarce, was unaffected. But crystal weapon grade, fortress grade, even the spire's uncut pillars would shiver and fall to sand. If a single guard learned of it, the high bench would crucify him in a geode before sunrise. Leoris stroked the vine's node. Soon, he whispered, soon the blades break and the killing stops. A soft but deliberate clap made him spin. Captain Celine Drake of City Watch leaned against the doorframe, arms folded, her onyx armor glittering like night water. You're talking to your flowers again? Leoris's heartbeat hammered. You shouldn't be here. And you shouldn't be here either, if by here we mean evidence chamber for treason. She closed the door. Relax, old friend. I scanned the hall. No one followed. Celine and Leoris had grown up in the same orphan quarter, parted when she joined the guards and he the gemsmiths. She had climbed rank fast, until her uniform held more embedded blades than most soldiers carried by hand. Yet she sought him out sometimes, usually when her conscience stung. She eyed the beds. So it's true. You're breeding silencing vines. Break vines, he corrected, then regretted the pride in his voice. Yes. Leo, the wardens will gut you. No, they'll crystallize me. Slower. Celine exhaled, armor plates rasping. Why risk it? You have prestige, pupils, more rations than half the city. If you need protest, write a poem. He touched the bud. A poem can't stop a blade. But this. He explained, quickly, about resonance fractures, about the seed line ready to propagate. Celine listened, brow stitched. I arrest smugglers and cutthroats nightly, she said at last. Some deserve steel we no longer have. Some deserve the breakvine. Suppose you succeed. Suppose tomorrow every sword in Viscera shatters. People will still want to kill. They'll turn to stones, teeth, glass shards. Or they'll come for you, maybe. Maybe not. Leoris pressed his palm to the soil, feeling the vines vibrate. When the expected weapon fails, sometimes anger drains away. I've seen brawlers in taverns swing crystal mugs. When the cups turn to dust mid-air, they're too shocked to keep fighting. Celine ran gloved fingers over a vine tendril. It quivered but did not break. Her gauntlet was obsidian overlay, nearly metal-free yet non-crystalline. You will need allies. I'll start with one, he said quietly. She studied him a long breath, then gave a short nod. I'll do what I can, within reason. But if Asgore orders your arrest, duty binds me. I understand. She stepped away, her reflection fractured in the glass panes. Then be swift, Leo. The warden's ready in outer campaign. More blades, more shields. Ward's a season that always harvests early. After she left, Leoris sank onto a stool. His hands shook, but with resolve. The demonstration was 3 days away, a spectacle where Overseer Vasker would unveil the new scythe pole line. Every high official would attend. If the Breakvine released its song there, in the Grand Armory, the entire month's armament would splinter before their eyes. That would prove force useless, or at least more costly than peace. He set to work, pruning, grafting, guiding the vines into clay urns disguised as water basins. Each pot bore a false bottom where roots coiled around quartz chips primed to resonate. He'd carry them himself to the armory under the guise of staging decor. Sabotage by aesthetics and irony he savored through his fear. By second dawn, the preparations were ready. Arin helped load carts. The boy's enthusiasm seeped into Leoris's mind like sunrise warmth. Master, after the demonstration, Arin asked, will we show everyone how to grow breakvine? Families could plant it around homes, no more threat from raiders. If things go as planned, Leoris said, the knowledge will be free to all. If not, burn my journals, every scrap. Arin paled but nodded. They reached the Grand Armory courtyard, a vast marble basin rimmed with tiered seating. Veskara's banners, skeets of smoked quartz scales hung in lazy arcs. Guards waved them through the inner gate. Celine had arranged the pass. Leoris positioned urns along the demonstration dais, close to racks holding the new scythes. Long cerulean blades fused to pale hafts. The scythes gleamed viciously. Overseer Vaskor appeared, a tall wraith of a man whose skin bore the opal sheen of frequent alchemical baths. Behind him strode 2 judicant clerks in half-grown armor, their very ribs reinforced with living crystal sheaths. Vasker's smile narrowed when he surveyed the urns. New decorative whim, Jim Smith? Reflective basins to amplify the scythe's shimmer. Overseer, Leoris answered. He kept his tone deferential, eyes lowered, a servant's mask he had worn for years. A festival touch. Very well. Spectators filled the stands, merchants, guildheads, magistrates. Even the high bench ascended a dais, their crystalline scepters catching sun. Leoris spies Celine, posted near an exit tunnel. She gave the slightest tilt of her chin. Now or never. He stepped to the edge of the platform. Each urn held a wick tube threaded into the soil. Leoris drew a match and ran it along a shard of flintstone. Another irony, using flint because no one squandered metal for sparks. Flame kissed the scented oil. Vapor rose. At once the breakvines woke, sensing heat. and the low hum Leoris began under his breath. A pitch no louder than a lover's murmur. The vines took up the note, multiplied it, an inaudible vibrato that only Crystal could hear. Leoris felt it first as a tingling in his teeth, then saw it. Fissures sneaking along the racks. The foremost scythe groaned, a whalebone moan, then burst. Blue shards fanned into glittering dust. Gasps rippled through the stands. Within seconds, the entire month's arsenal shivered like water on drumskin. Blades collapsed in shimmering avalanches. The stands erupted. Some shouted, some screamed, some laughed in shock. Leoris kept humming, guiding the frequency so the break remained confined. He dared not risk the stadium pillars. Overseer Vascor staggered back. Tiny fractures spidered across the jewel studs on his collar. "What treachery is this?" Leoris rose, voice carrying now. "No more blood timbered in crystal. The age of gardens of death must end. Witness, your weapons are sand." Silence followed, but not for long. Vascor's eyes, iridescent with fury, snapped toward the judicant clerks. "Seize him!" Celine leapt between them. "Protocol, the accused returns to guild custody pending inquiry." "The hell with protocol," Vascor snapped. He raised a fist. Veins in his wrist sparkled, faintly crystalline implants thrumming. "He's a contagion." Leoris sensed more guards closing. He scattered a smaller urn of vine seeds across the floor. The grains burst roots the instant they touched, spilled crystal powder. Blades the guards drew shattered before clearing scabbards. Panic now rose unchecked, but Vascor was not deterred. He snatched a scepter from a magistrate, one made of agate, resistant to fracture, and swung. Celine blocked with the back of her gauntlet, wincing as chips broke off. Leoris seized Arin's hand. "Get to the carts!" The apprentice hesitated, eyes wide. "Come with." "Go." Arin bolted. Leoris turned to see Celine knocked to her knees, helm cracked. Guards surrounded her and Leoris both, but none dared use their crystal weapons. Instead, they produced restraining loops woven of rare hemp rope, one commodity yet unsupplemented. Leoris did not resist. Too many civilians nearby. He let them bind his wrists. Celine, bleeding from temple, was dragged alongside. Vascor's voice sliced the uproar. "By decree, immediate crystallization. We quell rot before it spreads." Protest rose from some benches. Others cheered. The guards marched their prisoners through rear corridors toward the judicant's spire. Leoris felt strangely calm, heart slow, as if the vine's resonance steadied him. Celine muttered, "I'm sorry. Not your fault. I should have helped you escape." "You helped more than you know." They emerged onto the spire's wind-whipped balcony. Sunset blazed, turning Vescar into a jeweled map. At the balcony's center, the chrysalis frame waited. Slender arms of stone that would clasp a condemned body so the seed geodes could sprout. Residue of past victims glittered on the frame, thin plates of once flesh, now flawless stone. Leoris swallowed memory and fear. Vascor addressed the gathering below, voice amplified by echo cones. "Citizens of Vescara, behold the price of subversion." He turned to Leoris. "Any last words, Gemsmith?" "Yes," Leoris said. "Listen." He shut his eyes. Even bound, he still carried the Song the Vine's core frequency, and far below Arin was not fleeing. The boy would have opened the cart lids by now, releasing hundreds of vine pods into drainage channels that honeycombed the city. Leoris began to hum. At first the note was thin, lost in wind. Then the city itself answered, one garden at a time. Brake vines in covert patches echoed back. Pipes beneath streets vibrated. Greenhouse panes quivered. The response gathered mass like a rising tide. Vascar felt it too late. The spire's upper tiers rang like a bell. Micro cracks rippled through its centuries-old heart. Songline after songline collided until the whole structure flashed with internal lightning. Screams rose from balconies as small amethyst shards rained. Celine looked up, eyes wide. "You planned this?" "No," Loris corrected softly. "We grew it." The spire fractured with a sound like glaciers calving. Guards abandoned posts, dragging bench dignitaries toward ladders. Vascar shrieked orders no one heard. He reached for Lyris, but a fissure opened between them. The chrysalis frame tore loose and toppled, still empty. Chains on Leoris's wrists snapped when the crystals in their buckles burst. He stumbled free, helped Celine upright. "Can you move?" "Enough to run." They dashed through a side stair as the tower convulsed. Behind them, Vascor still raved, a solitary figure upon a sinking jewel. Leoris did not look back. Streets below were chaos. Dust clouds glittered, beautiful and lethal. Yet amid panic, some faces shone with wonder, as if a spell long choking the city had broken. Storefront weapon racks lay in ruin, but no one carried replacement blades. The music still thrummed, an invisible pulse. Aaron found them near the old aqueduct, cheeks ashy but triumphant. The pods took. Roots everywhere. Even the central granary's vines are climbing the walls. Leoris clasped the boy's shoulder. "Good work. Now we must teach the song to everyone." Celine stared at the smoldering skyline. "You realize what comes next. Power vacuums, blame, scavengers, maybe other cities march, bringing metal knives." "Maybe," Leoris said, "but Vescara has a chance to decide who she'll be without the crutch of crystal blades." That chance was worth any risk. She shook her head, half smiling. "Pacifist? You just toppled half the government." "I never promised gentleness, only an end to killing." He looked at his hands, raw from broken manacles. "We've broken their swords. Now comes the harder craft, helping them break their hate." Sirens echoed, short, desperate bursts. Far off, the spire's upper crown collapsed with star-like brilliance. Yet the sunset beyond it remained serene, painting shards into harmless prisms. Leoris inhaled dust that sparkled in his lungs but did not cut. He turned to his companions. "Let's go, before someone tries to recast the pieces. Gardens wait, and vines like peace grow fastest when tended by many hands." They walked into streets littered with glitter that once had been weapons, each step crunching the past into sand. Above them, beneath gathering dusk, the brake vines unfurled tiny white flowers across ruined walls. First bloom of a future. Still fragile, but finally possible.